Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Shine Like a Diamond. Lovely to have you all here today. I'm very blessed with the beautiful sister Rosalie. We've known each other. Yeah, we sat in circle. We just talked about it a little bit before in 2021. We were sitting in circle for quite a while, and then we kind of had our own journeys. And wonderful to reconnect now. It's been a while since we've sat together. So yeah, welcome. Nice to have you here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I feel so blessed to be here. And yeah, I'm excited to do this with you, brother.
Yeah, I can feel that joy already. I remember that, sitting in circle and there's this beautiful being with this I feel you have like this pure essence, and this real innocent fairy like kind of energy.
Yeah, it's true. And I feel like that innocence has been with me my whole life. I just feel it's like, that essence of joy is what I'm here to bring and to help bring that like purity, innocence, playful energy back into the everyday. And, we don't have to lose that just because we get older and we grow up. It's like, how can we keep the inner child alive and really remember, our heart connection and, how deeply we can just experience joy even when we're going through challenges, even when, we're going through ascension symptoms, even when, you know, things come up. It's like we can always connect back into that.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's like you say, it's so important, and it's our innate nature, and as adults we do kind of become quite serious. Spiritual journey can be very serious, and it's like, no, it doesn't have to be like this.
Yeah.
And I love myself when I just be stupid, I just do something really stupid and silly and laugh at myself. And if someone's
Yeah.
there, that's okay as well. I do those things by myself, but even in front of people, I feel it just brings that innocence, of a child coming through. Yeah.
Yeah. I actually have my dad to thank for some of that because he was like a big kid. He never really like grew up, so to speak. Like he always was in that little boy play energy. And I loved that as a kid. Like he knew how to have fun. And that was like my fondest memories as a kid was just like, my dad just being silly and goofy all the time and like making me laugh and, chasing me. And it's just like, I feel I chose him well for that. He helped me keep that alive within myself as he never lost it either. So,
So that's beautiful. Yeah. Yeah, how's it been with you on your journey with that? So you say you've never lost that. So um yeah, how has it flowed with how you've expressed yourself around other people and then coming into different circles, environments, work, school, and
mhm.
then where you are now and things like that?
Yeah. Well, I was really blessed. As my dad, he was actually the first one in my family to really begin this work. Um, he went through his own healing journey and he, healed himself through his addictions and through his depression. And he pursued Reiki and yoga and became a Reiki master and a yoga teacher. So he really inspired me. Like since I was a child, I really looked up to him and how strong he was to be able to move through all of that. So I feel like in some ways, I really was exposed to the healing journey early on through my father, through witnessing everything that he went through, and then him really stepping into his power. So he really inspired me. And I think that helped me really awaken and to always have this like deeper connection to the divine. He actually used to do like Reiki for me when I was young, and he was always dropping um, like seeds when I was a teenager because we all go through like our phases where I needed to just be a teenager, and he would give me like seeds of wisdom like proverbs, and I just roll my eyes at him like, yeah, whatever, dad. And and now, like, looking back, I reflect, I'm like, wow, like, he was, like, trying to help me and guide me, but in a very, like, "I'm gonna sit back and let you figure it out yourself." but so he was sort of like a guide for me and helped me through, the journey. And so I feel like he helped me really stay connected. Stay connected to my heart, stay connected to the healing energy, the Reiki, the divine. And that sort of supported me through the challenges of life, becoming an adult, going into the real world. And I always had him to like come back to, and like he would just be there as like a rock, you know? And so I actually really think that he made it a lot easier for me, because I know a lot of people, they're the first ones in their family to really do this work. And I always say to him, like, thank you for paving the way for me, passing the torch so that I can continue kind of where you left off.
Yeah, and that sounds like you come in with a really higher purpose. So you needed that, I feel, to help you stay connected with your true essence and for what you're, stepping into now and have been in the last few years, I would imagine, or maybe longer.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And it's actually, I went through quite a massive awakening about 5 years ago. And so I felt like I was always connected to the divine, to consciousness, but the veil wasn't really lifted until 2019 for me, where I actually felt like Mother Earth just sort of like activated me. Like Mother Earth was like, it gets time. And then I felt like the veil was pulled back. And I went through such a massive um, awakening. It was like a Kundalini awakening where just everything in my life changed overnight. Like my job changed. I moved, my relationship changed. I went through like a complete timeline collapse. And I felt like it was planned, like it was in my soul blueprint to experience that. But right up until that point, when I was like 28, my life was pretty normal. And then all of a sudden, it was like everything changed in 2019. It was like it was time for me to move on to my next, you know, phase of this journey.
Wow. And so before that at 28, you weren't doing Reiki or anything like that, or you hadn't really been doing any healing modalities or going to meditation classes or anything like that?
Not really. I kind of took the route of going to school, and I wanted to become a teacher. So I was really devoted to my schooling and education. And I actually spent most of my youth learning from like higher education. And I was so in the system that that's just where I needed to be. I needed to figure out, my life and learn all these things and just learn about the system, learn about education and how it works. And my intention was always to bring, like, change it for the better, like to help children. I wanted to transform the way that we learn because I had a hard time as a child in the education system. So I went in hoping to really support kids like like me to really navigate through, and I wanted to bring in more like holistic education practices. So that's what I was doing. I was focused on that, and I wasn't as focused on the spiritual aspect as much. It was kind of in the back burner, and I was just focused on being here, being really present and being in my earth body and just doing normal stuff, going out with my friends. And that was just like normal to me. I was very just focused on that.
Mm. Wow. I think that's good. I guess that helps bring some grounding energies to when you get into these more heightened states as well. It's kind of like the groundwork. It sounds like,
Yeah.
the foundation and the groundwork of this really earthly life, which is all good. They always bring us so much magic. Maybe we can't see them at the time, but they always have, I feel, a higher purpose and supportive. And there's, it really shows us our essence when we choose certain things to step into, like you're teaching. You're a natural teacher. You're teaching now, but not in the way that
Yeah.
you saw.
Right.
Um, yeah. But I also feel you're probably going to assist children as well, I would imagine.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel I feel such a love in my heart for children, and especially the ones that are like coming in now to support. There's a lot of souls, beautiful souls with contracts and agreements to help, change things for the better and change the systems. And, they do need adults and guides and mentors that can help support them um, in really doing what they came here to do. Um, and so they just really they're here to get to work. A lot of them are just like, no messing around. Um, and I'm really actually interested more so in the raising the conscious family and what alternative education looks like, and maybe possibly even looking into homeschooling. I don't have any children of my own yet, but I do hope one day to really bring more light to that form of learning through mother nature, like introducing them to the earth and learning through nature and not needing so much mentalized information. So I feel like that education and learning I did was to contrast and help me to see what's working, what's not working, so that, one day, hopefully I can raise, a conscious child to support them and really honoring their gifts and honing in on that from birth, basically,
Yeah, that's really important. So do you see that like as an environment as such as like a form of school, or more that these children are like with their families and then you have classes or whatever that you come and gather them up and take them on, a journey into the bush, into the forest for 1 day, 5 days, 2 weeks, whatever it is, you know?
It's interesting. I've had a soul like come in that is meant to come through my beloved in me, and I feel like she's coming in to support me with this. I actually don't know what it's going to look like, but I know that her and I are co-creating together and what that will look like. And her soul is here to help support that. So, whenever she does decide to come in, it'll be this exploration and co creative effort where I will, check in and see, what she needs and allow her soul to guide me on what it is that, is going to be supportive, whether it's like more structure, less structure, or getting together with other groups of moms and kids who want to like work together to educate. I feel like that is in my future. It hasn't fully embodied or anchored yet, but it's weaving everything together. It's weaving the formal education that I do have, and weaving the conscious family that I'm currently with my partner involved in, and also just being more grounded here. And I feel it's actually her soul that's been supporting myself and Richard and helping us be more grounded so we can support her as well, because it's so important for conscious families to also have that really grounded space for their child to feel like they can also ground in more to Mother Earth and feel more connected.
Mhm. And so how do you see when you say grounded, can you just go into that a bit more? Because I feel for some people, they'll have an idea of what it is, and it could be that, or it could be something very different, and it could
Yeah.
be
So
different for each person as well. Yeah, sorry.
I think when I went through my Kundalini awakening, I really felt like I really became ungrounded just in the fact that I was reaching higher levels of consciousness and higher dimensions. It was really difficult for me to bring all of that light and physically anchor it into my body. So for a while, it was really like this embodiment process of how do I bring all of this like cosmic consciousness that I just opened, like this big, massive, like energy. How do I bring it here? And for a while, it was very hard to bring it here. It was like it was easier to stay within the higher realms and very difficult to be in the third dimension. But obviously, we are here in the third dimension. And so we're co creating with the third dimension. And so, but what I mean by grounded is how do we stay connected to our higher consciousness, our higher self, our light, our higher chakras, yet be still be able to have a physical experience manifest in the physical realm, create with the physical reality. And the more higher frequency we are, at times it can be challenging to anchor that or bring that into the physical world because it is so dense. And so by grounded, I mean actively grounding, like rooting yourself each day, practicing bringing yourself into your body, feet on the earth, working with the soil, like connecting to Pachamama, nourishing our bodies, taking that time to really focus also on the physical aspect of the experience.
Yeah, and would that involve, like you took of the higher chakras, so as above, so below, you'd go into the chakras that go through into the core of Earth as well, eh?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And just, balancing, it's all about balance. Like, how do we nurture the mind, body, spirit? And all the great yogis understood that. Like, it's about working with not just the energy, because that can, we can easily get pulled into just being an energy all day. But we're also physical beings with a body. And it's important that we're also taking care of the physical body, the physical vessel, nourishing it, taking time to be outside in nature, grounding, connecting with the life here, the trees, the soil, breath work and all those kinds of things are really important as well. But at times it can be challenging because that's where some of the trauma often is when we ground into the lower chakras, into the root, the sacral, and the solar plexus. There can be a lot of ick and it can feel very uncomfortable to ground in. And if there's, patterns or energies or density there that we need to release and work through.
Yeah, for sure, and I do see that as times as well. For some people, it's very easy to access the higher realms, so they just go, "Yep, not looking at that. Boom, I'm just gonna go hang out here."
Yeah.
Um, but I feel it's always gonna come around, it's still gonna show up in whatever form it needs to, and, so it is really important to ground down and then honor that aspect of ourselves, and that's what we're here for, isn't it? It is a very physical realm. We've come here to Earth to experience, and I really like that word experience, it makes things, it kinda gives an even field with a lot of what we do experience. It's kind of like it's all experiencing, that doesn't have to be that's heightened and that's more nice and that's denser,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
yeah, so I feel
Yeah,
that
and
helps.
it's
You
true.
go.
I remember a point in my journey where, I received that it's time for me to enjoy my life again. Because when you're integrating the higher energies or the galactic energies, you can have so much desire and focus to be elsewhere. They kind of call it like starseed syndrome, where like you feel this like homesickness, and you just really find it challenging to coexist in the lower physical realm. Um, but I remember at one point I had an aha moment where I realized that, your mindset can really shift things. If you continue to think like, oh, it's better in the higher dimensions, or, my home is elsewhere, or, I'm from Andromeda and I want to go home, if we keep focusing on all of that, it can be really challenging to find joy here, to find love here. And I realized at some point, like, there is so much beauty here. Earth really is a paradise. There is so much to fall in love with on this beautiful planet. And there's so much that Gaia has to offer as well. And so I think a lot of times we have this experience of it being, awful or horrible or dense, or, we have all these ideas or beliefs around it. But, when I started connecting back with Gaia and really asking her to support me in being here, I realized how much resistance I had to being here. And I started releasing that and started to do things that really brought me joy and things that I really love to do. And, one of the things that really helped me ground was I started, learning how to take care of plants and learning more about them, because I could feel their energy, and I could feel their consciousness. And so when I started, going to the store and picking out plants, I would tune into which one wanted to come with me. It's like getting a new crystal. You're like, which plant wants to come home with me? And I started doing that and bringing them into my home. And then, every morning I would think, oh, do they need water? Like, what do they need? Maybe they need more sun. Are they happy here? So by taking care of the plants, it kind of helped me to feel more here, more grounded because I was like, I'm responsible for them. I brought them into my home. And every time, like, if one would start to die, I would feel horrible. I'd be like, wow, like I'm clearly not paying attention to what it needs, you know? And I learned over time that just by taking care of the plants and really, bringing them into my home, I felt more connected to earth. I felt more connected to her and to living consciousness, and it just brought me a lot of joy. And just a simple little thing like that can really help you just be more present and be in the moment, and that can really help you.
Yes, that's a beautiful thing that you shared there. Being present in the moment, it's huge, I think
Yeah.
yeah, it's a great tool that everyone can just do whatever they need to bring that into their everyday life. It's not like you have to go and do a course or, be in with a master or anything. You can just start practicing being present and it'll bring so much. Yeah, and I love how you share about the plants and caring for them, and I can see how that does bring that connection to earth and that responsibility, isn't it? Of
Yeah.
we've chosen to be here and we're here to interact. And, like you say, with earth, it's so beautiful. And as we see that relationship we can have from that place of it's so beautiful here, it shows itself even more. She just shows us how beautiful she is as we open ourselves to that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And you develop that connection and that love. And it's kind of like, Gaia calls you back at some point. You go through this big awakening and you access the higher dimensional realms. And at some point, like Mother Earth reminds you of your agreement with her, which we do have an agreement. We do have an agreement with Mother Earth to be physically here because we have an earth body. And so it's kind of like, Mother calls you home and she says, okay, it's time for you to be back in your body. And whether you like it or not, this is what you agreed to. And you can kick and scream and you can hate it or you can really embrace it. And I chose to embrace it. I chose to really find the joy and the love and the excitement for life again. And the animals really help me with that as well. The animals, the trees, the plants, just those parts of this experience, they're so beautiful and they have so much love to give and so much to offer. And so that has helped me feel more at home, more at peace, more able to like be here is those parts of it.
Yeah, and I guess, I feel what you possibly sharing here is that how I see it as well is all these beings here are higher dimensional as well. We always think we go into these higher realms and we go into these galactic places, but what's here is also of these higher frequencies as well, so
Mhm.
we can feel at home here, even though maybe we're from a certain star or whatever, but we can relate in that higher frequency here and these beings and interact and have really potent, powerful experiences. And I do find with people who are looking for home, um, they tend to struggle with earth and then for go into really dense stuff within the realms of earth.
Yeah.
Instead of feeding themselves with the light stuff, the stuff that actually nourishes them while they're here, that can make them bring them back to home, like you're saying.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, it's like I think it's part of the polarity integration. From my understanding, we live in a polarity experience. And so even on the ascension journey, we go through this phase of exploring the darkness to understand the light. But, and I was actually being shown this morning. When we go through awakening, it's kind of like the caterpillar emerging from the egg. Um, it's like when we're in the egg, it's kind of like being in the 3D reality. We're in the dark. We don't really know what's going on. And then we go through this awakening. And it's like we come out as this caterpillar and we're just hungry. We just want to learn so much and we're just eating and consuming everything. And it's like we want to learn every modality. We want to read every spiritual book. We want to explore everything. And we just kind of like take it all in. That's kind of like the caterpillar, like the hungry caterpillar. we're so excited to finally be aware of just more. There's more, right? And then we go through these layers of like shedding skin, like the caterpillar, releasing layers, releasing patterns. We go through the healing. We explore the darkness, we explore the light, we integrate it. And some of us can be in the caterpillar stage for years. It just depends, right? Like where we're just really in that like searching, seeking, healing, trying to understand everything. And then I think at some point we realize like, okay, I think I've reached my capacity. Like I'm overloaded. There's just too much. I need to go within. I need to decompress and integrate. And that's kind of when we go into like the chrysalis. We kind of go into this like inner cave, this like inner world where we're kind of, holding ourselves up in this little cocoon. And, that's when you could call it like a dark night of the soul, where we're just like, doubting everything, questioning everything. Like, what do I even believe? Like, does any of this make any sense? It kind of is like that for a little bit where we go into this like kind of space, this like womb space. But then after we've integrated and let go of everything that we've taken in that doesn't resonate and doesn't work and isn't for us and isn't helping us anymore, and it's like we emerge out of this cocoon, as this butterfly, where we're like this new version of ourselves, but more beautiful, where we, can share our gifts and our beauty with the world. And so I really was shown that this morning, like this is kind of what the journey's like. And I think we go through many versions of this. There's many times we may return back into the, that caterpillar stage and try something else, but I think that's kind of like the journey. It goes through that metamorphosis.
Mm. Yeah, I was just smiling the whole time you were sharing that. It was so beautiful, and it's a beautiful way to relate to something tangible as well, you know?
Yeah.
That really, yeah, I feel that brings a real specialness to it. And I was just grinning my head off because yeah, I guess part of me was reflecting on my journey as well as you were sharing it and go, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You know, there's a stage where you're like, yeah, no more books. You just read your own book, you know, just sit
Yeah.
with yourself. You've got an amazing
Yeah.
book within you, you know, and
Right.
yeah, it's so important. And, you know, everything is to be experienced through the body, I feel. So we've got to at some point just stop, you know, and stop
Right.
looking and searching and taking
Yeah.
information in and just actually, like you say, just be
Mhm.
and stop and listen and give yourself, yeah, that opportunity to really hear your own inner voice and then explore that.
Absolutely.
So for you, was it that just slowing down, or was there something that kind of come along that said, okay, or you just got to a boiling point, like I'm done, like.
I remember it felt like there was just so much chaos energetically happening. Like, I remember there was a phase in my life where I'm like, what is even going on? Like, there was so much chaos, just energetically, things coming up, stuff happening where I literally felt like I was in this like tornado storm. And I don't even know how it happened. And that's kind of my realization where I'm like, okay, like I can't live like this. Like I need to ground and stabilize. Whatever is happening right now is just like crazy. That's what it kind of felt like. And then I remember like we pulled back and let go of so much. Like me and Richard were like, we really need to focus on like our life right now. And right around that time is actually when we sat in circle with the Kogi elders. So there's this beautiful tribe from the Sierra Nevada mountains. Actually, there's 4 tribes that live there, and we got an opportunity to sit in with an elder on a call, on a Zoom call, and it just changed our life. Like we realized that we had a calling that was deeply connected into Mother Earth, and through the codes that were being shared and the remembrance through the elders is how we became more embodied and grounded and centered back into our life. And that's when things slowed down because that was their message. Everything was simple. we had overcomplicated so much. And they're like, it's source is simple. Life is simple. Why are you overcomplicating it? Why are you making it like so, like you're so much in your mind? You guys know too much. And it was like the elders were like, you need to let it go. Like you're so much in your thinking or so much in your analytical mind. They really helped us come back into our hearts and back into our bodies. And they were holding this memory alive because they live in they call Colombia, the Sierra Nevada, the heart of the world. They were holding the codes of mother of the heart chakra alive for us. And in the Western world, we are very mental, we are very intellectual, we're very trained to like seek information and analyze everything. And so they helped us come back into more of like a simplified state of being where we could actually let go of everything we think we know and just come back to, really connecting to Mother Earth, really supporting and being here. And so we actually had the privilege of going to the mountain and staying with the elders for 10 days on the mountain. No technology. We ate everything they grew. We stayed in these little like cabins or like little huts that they built, and it was just simple. Come back to basics. And that's what really reset it for us. We realized like this is important. This is what we're meant to be doing. Everything else that we were doing just didn't feel as important anymore.
That's quite a lot, quite a big shift because you guys, yeah, you do a lot, and it's amazing what you do and what you achieved. So to have that big shift is quite a transformation, and beautiful, to have that realization and for them to show, well, yeah, help you remember that simplicity within us. And I feel it is. I really resonate with that less is more. I don't
Yeah.
always embody it, but it really shows up when I'm not embodying it, or I've kind of lost my way a little bit, and it's just like,
Yeah.
even with a simple thing like making a smoothie, there's so many wonderful foods I could put into a smoothie. But when I find if I have 4 or 5 ingredients, I enjoy it so much more than when I have 10 or 15.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's things like that. It's just, yeah, you don't need so many things, and then you get to really experience each thing. You get to taste it, like vegetables.
Yeah.
Just put salt on them, put roast vegetables, and then when you eat the broccoli, you're eating broccoli, you can really taste broccoli and what it is, and then the
Right.
pumpkin. Yeah, and I love that. I feel that's, yeah, that's a really big message, to keep it simple.
Yeah. Yeah. I just wanted to share one of the first things, when we went there, we took a group with us, and it was the first time that they'd had um, a group of people from the Western world on the mountain. And it was their first time, these elders interacting with us, because they've been living up in the mountain for so long, not really interacting with the outside world. And we came and they were like, oh my God. they, when we first came, they're like, you're so restless. They could just sense how restless we were, like our spirits were restless. And so that, reprogramming the nervous system and helping the mind slow down and slowing down the rhythm of like, because to them, we were probably just like, like just our energy was just probably so high strung compared to what they're used to in their slow living. So they kind of put us on like a little bit of a timeout where we sat as a group and they're just like, just take an hour and just look up at the stars, look up at the moon and just be. And they literally just had us all just sit in quiet on the mountain and stare up at the stars, stare up at the sky without thinking, without doing. And then they all meditated on what we needed. And they're like, this group needs less. We're not planning all these things for them to do. They need to just be. Because they're so busy, like could just sense how restless we were. And we kind of get to that stage, I think, in the journey where we're trying to do so much. We're trying to go, go, go. The next thing to heal, the next thing to learn, the next modality, the next book, the next whatever. And we're so busy on that hamster wheel that we're actually not like in the present moment. We're not fully like here. We're not embodied. We're not grounded. We're not fully understanding like what's happening. because there's so much going on. We're always like next thing, next thing. And so when we went and visited the elders, it was just like, just stop. Just be, you need lots of time to just meditate and just connect with the mountain. And that was it. It was very simple. Just like we'd go for like nature walks, and they'd call them like awakening walks. And that, like, just going for a walk, that was the activation. Like going to like a specific tree, or going to visit like a lake or a rock. That was the activation, and it was powerful. But we didn't need to do anything. We didn't need to like do all these things. We just needed to be present.
Wonderful. It's funny, isn't it, how lost we can get and how disconnected we can get to that essence. And it's such a beautiful experience for you guys to be able to go there and really see people who embody it and are still so connected, And yeah, it must have been quite something for you, for them, for they've never seen these people from this
Yeah.
Western world, and the way we move. And yeah, and you've been more than once as well, haven't you?
Yeah, yeah, we've been twice now. And the second time we went, um like Father Fire like activated me, and I actually got heat stroke. Because it was like I was sitting with the fire, because they keep the fire alive in their temples. They don't ever let the fire go out. There's always someone watching the fire and rekindling the flame, and it's kind of like the eternal flame, and it's part of their part of their culture. And I remember I went to Grandfather Fire, and I offered him a cinnamon stick, and I asked for a prayer for my healing. And that day I heated up. Like I ended up like burning up and like getting super, super, super hot. And then I realized like I was just like burning up like crazy. And so I actually got one of the ladies on the mountain, like the Zagas, the elder grandmother, she did a blessing, and she rubbed me down with like peppermint oil and helped me like integrate whatever it was. And it was really powerful. And that fire has been like in me ever since. I feel like this burning like flame, and it's from the sacred fire, from like sitting in on that ceremony. And yeah, ever since then, I've just been so activated. It was really
Wow.
powerful.
Yeah, that sounds really well. I can feel that. Wow. And so, yeah, I guess it was your physical body needing to adjust with this inner eternal flame that you say
Yeah.
that ignited. And yeah, and of course, at the start, your body's going to go, wow, this is too much.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty wild, for sure. So, and that was the second time we visited. Every time we go back, it's like, something else reveals itself. So it's very
Yeah.
magical. Magical place for sure.
Yeah. Wow. And so you go, what, for about 10 days or something, 10 or two, couple of weeks.
Yeah, usually about 7 to 10 days.
Mm.
And
That
yeah,
must
I
feel
know
like an
I know we'll
eternity.
be back. But every time we go, I feel like a new part of myself activates.
And the first time you had quite a few people go, and the second time was there as many, or was it a bit more intimate?
Yeah, we had a lot of people the first time, and maybe a little bit less the second time. Um but yeah, both times were very different experiences, different groups, different energies,
Mm.
and we went to the same part of the mountain both times, but it was a very different experience both times. It's because you kind of get what you need, you get what the group needs, you receive what's gonna be supportive. And yeah, it's like always a big healing. It's sort of like, it's kind of like going back home to your roots. And Mother Earth directs the healing, and she supports each individual with what they need. And some of it, it's not always what you think, right? Sometimes you think it's just gonna be like this paradise experience, but it's also like a lot of beliefs and a lot of emotions come up, and you're just letting layers go, layers go. and just coming back to like your true, like authentic self, the part of you that just like is eternal and everything else goes, you know?
Yeah, and those densities, they when they go, don't they? They have to come up and be felt.
Yeah, 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 absolutely, and it's powerful and beautiful, and I remember, at times it's always a little bit hard coming back, when we went to the mountain, we got so acclimated to the food and the energies and just the purity. The water's so pure, the food's so pure, the soil's so pure, the air is so pure, everything there is so pure, and then you kind of come back here and you just notice the difference and it's a little bit of a readjustment, um, and then you kind of like feel like, wow, I thought where we lived was really high frequency. We've done so much work here, but it's like, it's just different. The energies are just completely different compared to like the mountains. So it's always powerful and beautiful to experience it. But then coming back is like, that's when the real work begins, is you're integrating everything.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's always that you have to step out of that bubble as such and back into everyday life. And so have you felt like you're home? Have you looked at your home situation and felt to be closer to nature, or you feel like you can, you're really so connected with nature you can move and living in yeah, more built up kind of areas of housing or what have you?
Yeah, since we've come back from the mountain, it's really made me miss being in a more remote location. Like I feel there's a calling to move away from like the neighborhood. Like, we're in a neighborhood right now around a lot of people and there's a lot of housing. Since being back here, I feel like I'm in a bit of a fishbowl. Because once you go onto the mountain, it's just like vast mountains, and you just feel like there's so much land and nature, and you're in the jungle. And you're like, this is amazing. This feels like home. And then you kind of come back here, and we're like in these little houses, and you kind of feel like you're back in a fishbowl. So ever since I've been back from the mountain, I feel the desire to just move away from the residential and more into a space where I can just be with the trees. That's been a shift. I've noticed like, wait a minute, it feels a lot better to just be kind of in your own space versus being so condensed, like, in the cities and in the neighborhoods, everyone's just kind of like the houses are so close together, right? So me being at the mountain reminded me of how like beautiful it is to just kind of have your own space to breathe.
Yeah, yeah, and it's
But
it's so true. I mean, I even find here, like I'm often in nature. I really am a nature body, and I often living even in my car or just staying in certain places, going hiking, moving around wherever I travel. I stop at a lake or a river and go to the beach and go hiking, and yeah, it's amazing. I'm finding here I'm in this really nice house, and it's beautiful. And I go for a walk in the lakes just 2 blocks away. The mountains are just everywhere, and there is a
mm,
real openness out that way. Housing is more this way, and I've just really noticed strongly yesterday, but even other days when I'm coming back from walking Charlie the dog that I have here, who's super fun. I go, oh, going into the house. Hmm, kind of feels doesn't feel like fun or comfort or anything actually.
yeah.
It's like I just want to stay out here. So yeah, I can
Mhm.
resonate with that. Not that I've experienced what you guys have there, but yeah, I can resonate with that.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
And it
Um,
is, it's our innate nature. It really is that I feel that strongly in us all. We've really had these lives where we're so connected with Earth, and we are that nature
mhm.
within, we are all the elements and everything. And so, so important to have that activated and alive in us.
When I came back from the mountain, I had this vision that was shown to me where it felt like at some point in our history as a human species, as a human race, we kind of chose to turn our backs on nature. We kind of went away from it all, right? You can see how things have changed. We used to be very connected with the lands. We used to be very connected with the animals. There was a reverence, there was a respect. We see it in the native cultures and we see it in the tribal energies. And there was a point, like a choice point, where I felt where we wanted to explore our consciousness wanted to explore what it would be like to turn its back on itself. Because what I realized is that we actually are nature. We're not separate from it. Our bodies are physically made up of the earth. So we actually, as a species, we turn our backs on it, we walked away. But the most beautiful and powerful, loving thing is that nature is still here, waiting for us to come back to her. The animals are still here. The trees are still here. The earths, the ancient rock beings, they're still all here. Everything's here. All of the codes, all of the memory records, everything is still available to us. It's us who have forgotten our way. And so what's happening is we're actually remembering, oh, right, like we're getting sick because we've turned ourselves so far away from nature that now we're poisoning ourselves, and we're poisoning the earth, and we're hurting ourselves. And so now we're realizing there's a wake up call where we're realizing that we need to come back to nature. We need to come back to the natural remedies, the natural medicines. And this is what's happening. And so humanity is waking up to this. We're realizing that we can't continue on the path that we're headed on because it is making us sick. It is hurting the planet. It is hurting the animals and everything else. So nature's been calling us back. There's been Mother Earth has been calling those who are sensitive, like the empaths, back home to her. So that's why we feel more at home when we're in nature. That's why we want to go to the forest, we want to go to the trees, we want to be alone, we want to listen, we want to be, because it's literally our mother is calling us saying, hello, wake up, because there is a need for that. There is a need right now for us to be the stewards of Mother Earth, to teach and bring back the sacred ways so that we can heal.
Yeah, totally. I think I don't really have any response because you just nailed it totally. It's just like, yep. Yeah, we are nature,
Yeah.
totally. Yeah.
Right. And
And
that's why it's so important for us to be here. That's the wake up call, is that we
mm,
can be in the higher realms all we want, but there is a real planet that needs us to remember and awaken to, these things, because there's a lot of us that came here to bring the natural remedies, to bring the medicines, to, be able to connect with the plants and the trees, and to be able to cultivate and grow our own food again, to be able to heal and help the waters, purify and help the lands heal. And there's a lot that needs to be done here. And, we're the ones that are remembering the ways to do it. And we're the ones that are going to help share and teach this and help our children, do this. And so that's why there's such a, you see it. There's so many people that want slow living. They want to return back to the homesteads and the farms and having the land and growing their own food and being the ones to raise their own children instead of having these institutions, because we're realizing like, hey, wait a minute, this is not right. We need to actually we've come full circle.
yes.
We're like, okay, we're done with that. We need to come back to ourselves.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And yeah, it's true. There are more and more people jumping on board and becoming aware of, yeah, the journey that we've had and how far removed we have been and how much, yeah, harm. I just think of the bees as well, like when you say that, it's like even when they had the Varroa virus come through, the Varroa mite coming through, and, the way of healing it is putting chemical strips into the hive. And it's like, yeah, it's just not gonna help.
Yeah.
You
Hmm.
know, and these poor bees, and so many people are aware of we need the bees, but they don't take that next step. Okay, but yeah, it is happening. More and more people are starting to realize, because a lot of commercially grown honey, the beekeepers, they don't have very good ways of caring for the bees. So we need to look at that as well and reach out to those who are more aware of how to care for the bees in a more natural way. And I even know some beekeepers who just don't do anything when the varroa mite turns up. They just let nature take its course and say the bees will find a way. They'll become resilient.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so true. I actually learned that from the elders when they actually reclaim land, because part of some of their work, their mission work, is to take back land that has been utilized for like industrial like farming or whatever, and it's not supportive for the sacredness of the land. And so they actually work to buy back the land. And when they do, it's always in rough shape, right? It's been kind of, not well taken care of, and, the soil's no good or whatever it is. And we always ask the elders, well, what do you do? Do you plant trees? Is there certain crops? And their response is simple. It's like, we don't do anything. Mother Earth knows what to do. Why would we tell Mother Earth what she needs to do? Like, it's like telling a woman what to do with her body, right? It's like, no, she knows what to do. She knows what the earth needs. We just leave her alone. And they're like, sometimes she'll tell us, hey, I need this plant or this crop. Can you do this? And they tell them, she tells them what to do. But ultimately, if you just leave nature alone, it'll do what it needs to do.
Yeah. It'll work out. Yeah, it knows. It's got all the answers for sure. I even remember, like in the Bible, there's something it's always sat with me. Not that I've really read the Bible, but there's some things that I've heard that really resonate. And it was when man chose to turn the soil, he became slave to the land. And what that's really saying is that we just got so far removed from gardening naturally and organically and in communion with earth. We decided how it needed to be done, and we took control, and
Right.
we made it really hard work, and that's what actually puts a lot of people off. It's like it's really hard work, and it's like, no, if you actually look at nature and how the forest creates fertile soil, that's all we need to do, is bring that into our
Yeah.
backyard and let it do itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so true. And listening more and just being more in tune
Mhm.
with nature. Like everything in nature works in harmony with itself. It's incredible. Like, have you ever watched those documentaries? About the mushrooms and the mycelium network and the trees. I'm always like just amazed. I'm like, wow, like everything functions so well and has a system. Everything's in order.
Yeah.
We're the ones that are chaos. We bring chaos. The nature knows how to take care of itself and communicate. And even so far as when a tree gets chopped down, that stump holds so much living organisms in life that everything will move towards the tree to take care of it, to keep everything in order. So it takes care of itself. It knows how to sustain, it knows what it needs, and everyone's working together. And it's incredible how they communicate. I just think, wow, we have so much to learn from nature. Like, if we could just, extract the wisdom from how nature, observing nature, we would probably be so much better off.
For sure, yeah, for sure. Yeah, it does. It's that network, It's totally in constant communion, communication all the time, back and forth, assisting
Yeah.
each other. I think they've even done studies, where they've got trees and then one tree's got no light and another tree's got no water and things like that, but they all are the same, they just helped each other, give each other what they were lacking, and they all were
Yeah.
just thriving beside each other, and things like that. And there's a tree actually just out here I was looking at the other day, and it's so rotten. It's so like gone, but actually it's not. There's a part of it that's just thriving. It's just like still there, just and there's not many
Nice.
trees near it at all, and I'm like, oh, that's fascinating. And where's his resources coming from? Where's she pulling that energy from? Who's feeding that? Is it the lake that's
Yeah.
nearby or yeah, it's amazing. So it's nice, like you're saying, just sit and listen and learn. Learn and remember.
Yeah, I actually follow someone who communicates with trees, and she shared that trees actually pull trauma out of the land. If there's been war or something has happened there, because the memory imprint is held within the land. If something has happened at that location. And trees help to actually heal. And so they will pull the trauma into their body. And that's why they sometimes lose branches and limbs. They actually will pull the trauma into their body and then kind of direct it towards like a part of their like limbs or their trees, and then that part falls off. So they actually heal. It's so amazing. I'm like, oh my God, that makes so much sense.
Yes, yeah,
Because they're like they're amazing little supporters, like, they do so much for us, and so I have such a deep respect for the trees because there really is consciousness there, and they're, doing so much to help the earth and to help us. So
yeah.
it's incredible.
It is incredible. I feel all of nature, every living creature being is here to support us if we just realize that, and stepped into our heart and really honored them because they do honor us, if they know how important it is and our connection and our purpose and yeah, that's really beautiful. Yeah, it makes sense. I hadn't heard that before, but it really does make sense that these trees, that's what they're doing because the land, yeah, things it is held in the land, and we know that we go to certain areas and we're like, oh, okay, it's pretty sticky here. We need to give it a
Yeah.
work.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, this has been great. It's really fascinating. I feel we could carry on. But I feel also we could, yeah, draw it to a close. So, is there anything you'd love to share with the listeners before we finish?
Yeah, just yeah, my hope is everyone feels inspired to become curious again with nature and to come back to when you were a child and how everything was so interesting, and you would just go into a forest and be like, what's that mushroom, what's that tree, what's that beautiful plant, and become curious and excited, and again will really help heal that connection, that relationship, because there has been a deep severing, a deep disconnect. And that disconnect also can be felt within us. We don't understand that longing or that missing piece or why we feel this emptiness. But what I've learned on the journey, it's actually because we've longed to reconnect back with Earth, with ourselves, with our bodies, with the consciousness of the planet. And so, yeah, anyone who's feeling like really disconnected or lonely or just depressed, exposing yourself more to being with nature and sitting with the trees, sitting with the water, sitting with the plants and the animals, what can really help do a lot of healing and support for you. Sometimes it's just that simple. You're having a bad day, put your feet in the water in the lake, hug a tree. It's incredible how healing nature really is and how supportive it can be if we embrace it and become curious again, and walk barefoot and just let ourselves be wild again in nature, and that will really support, I feel, a lot of people and their mental health and their well-being.
Yeah, important. That we hadn't really touched on that, but that's really a beautiful way to finish with, people's health and well-being. Yeah, yeah, it's a beautiful message. Oh, well, thank you so much, sister. Really feel grateful for having you on the show and shining your light and love.
Thank you. It's been great to be here, and I really enjoyed our conversation as well.
Yeah, and I'm sure Mother Earth and all the beings are like, "Whee! This is awesome." And
Yeah, for sure.
excitement.
I feel them. Absolutely. I have two big tree guardians, like etherically, that come in and they hold space sometimes, and they always like let themselves know that they're here. And I called them in before this call, so I'm sure they're like, talk about the trees. Here too.
Nice.
Don't forget
Yeah,
about us.
so well, there you go. I mean, everyone who's listening, even if you're in the city, you can always find a tree to just connect with, even for a
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah.
So thank you all. Thank you, Rosalie. Go well. Shine your light and enjoy life and be curious and playful.
Yeah. Absolutely.